What is up, guys? Del Boy here. Does Luis Ortiz have Deontay Wilder over a barrel? Does he have him in a sticky situation? Deontay Wilder is at a stage in his career where he desperately needs a credible opponent. He won his title back in January 2015 against Stavern, a good win. Stavern was a consensus top 10 heavyweight. I never rated him that highly, but regardless, he was still in my top 10 at the time, so it was a good win in my books. But since then, he's done literally nothing. He's had a terrible run of voluntary defences. From the outside looking in, it always looks like he's picked the worst guys for his voluntary defences. And by cherry picking for that long, it's left him in a position where his credibility is shot, and he needs a big opponent. He needs a dangerous opponent. He needs to fight a genuine contender, is the bottom line. And Luis Ortiz has Wilder in an extremely sticky situation, because the reality is Luis Ortiz is guaranteed a shot at the WBA. And Joshua has said that after Pulev is done, he'll fight Ortiz. So Ortiz always has that fight. Whether Joshua does or not we'll see in the future. But Ortiz always has that carrot to fall back on. He's got a title shot. So that is a negotiation tactic right there. Because ultimately, if Luis Ortiz doesn't like what Deontay Wilder is offering, he can just say to Wilder, well, I don't need you. I've got the WBA title shot already. I want X amount of money for this fight. Pay me or you don't get the fight. Ortiz is in a position of power over Deontay Wilder, despite Wilder having the title. Wilder knows right now that he is in a position where he desperately needs a credible fight. The 2 years of cherry picking and excuse making could lead to a spectacular own goal, because if this fight doesn't come through, he's going to look like a prized I mean, let's be real. I mean, Wilder could have had this fight already. When Wilder was looking for a February opponent, Luis Ortiz put his hand up, because at that stage, Ortiz didn't really have any options. Ortiz said, I'll fight you, Deontay Wilder, and Wilder was the one who turned it down. Regardless of what the excuse was, Wilder and his team were the ones that turned it down. This fight could have been made, it could have happened already, but Wilder declined. His career or his title run could lead to a spectacular own goal. And because if he's fighting Stavern next, then his credibility is at an all-time low. I'll be honest, if that happens, if Wilder does not fight Ortiz next, then you can't put Wilder really above Joseph Parker in terms of credibility, can you? Especially if Parker beats Hughie Fury. Because Parker can then say, well, I've beat Andy Ruiz, I've beat Hughie Fury, I've beat two young up-and-coming contenders. What have you done, Wilder? What have you done since you won a title? Nothing. So if Parker ends up beating Hughie Fury and Wilder ends up fighting Stavern next, can you really say Wilder is above Joseph Parker? I'm not so sure. Wilder is in a sticky situation right now. And Luis Ortiz, if I was Luis Ortiz, I'd be pushing all of the buttons. Luis Ortiz, for the first time in his career, is in a position of power. And Joshua not getting stripped is potentially even better for him. You know? If he was Luis Ortiz, you know, you can say to Wilder, well, I'll get 3 or 4 million to fight Joshua. What you need me. You know, your career is turning into a joke. You're turning into a meme. You know? All of the excuse making from his team and his fans could really come back to bite him. All the people who excused his terrible defences, all the people who said he shouldn't fight Luis Ortiz in February, could potentially have egg on their face. When you mollycoddle, protect and baby fighters for too long and don't take risks, you know, potentially your career can stagnate and lack direction, and potentially we could be seeing that with Deontay Wilder. You know, the landscape constantly changes, and if you're not keeping yourself relevant, then you don't deserve anything. I mean, I gave this example before. Let's say Joseph Parker comes to the UK and totally starches Huey Fury, like knocks him cold, like a viral knockout. Like he's got a bit of traction in the UK at that point. Why, at that stage, is Wilder more credible than Joseph Parker? You've got to think about these things. A lot of you guys act like the scene just stays still. If you look at a division in boxing and look at the top 10 fighters, it's almost like the stock exchange, you know? Sometimes fighters' reputation and credibility goes through the roof, and sometimes it sort of plateaus, sometimes it drops. If you look at the stock market now and look at the stock market in 3 months, it's not going to be exactly the same. You know, shares are going to rise, they're going to fall, some are going to stay the same, and that's the same in boxing, that's the same with fighters. That's the way you got to look at it. But that's just my 2 cents. Does Luis Ortiz have Deontay Wilder in a sticky situation? Could Deontay Wilder about to be scoring a spectacular own goal? What do you guys think? Peace.